Henry Burris TV is brought to you by Hockey Central Sports Memorabilia, Sylvan Lake, and Supreme Menswear, simply the best.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Now, I think it's time, since you've asked me all the questions, for me to ask you all the questions.
Oh, Christ. Where are we going?
I mean, over the years, you've done such a remarkable job in sports with Global and the number of different...
There are a lot of years you weren't here. Don't forget.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I mean, tell me stories about the Palomino before it even opened.
Oh, my God.
Didn't you call the first game that Sugarfoot Anderson played in? Is that true? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. But
I remember Wally as a rookie.
oh my goodness. Let's get to some questions now.
Okay.
Let's talk about coaching. There's going to be some important coaches' decisions made at the end of this season in the CFL or in and around the league. Give me your take on what should happen, starting with Jim Barker in Toronto.
Should he stay?
Should he stay or should he go?
Oh, man, that's a good one. I'd have to say they should
Ooh,
go.
you mean you have nothing to say, or?
Yeah, well, give me time.
Oh,
Just
sorry
getting
about that.
warmed
So
up.
I'm just making sure.
Just getting warmed up. I like Jim Barker, but I think Jim has he goes with some of the same guys that will be the death of him.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence Phillips here.
Right.
Lululemon down there. I think had they gone after a quarterback with substance,
Lululemon.
they would have been a little better. I mean, last year, at a 500 football club, there was a lot of promise for Toronto, which happens to be the worst sports city in North America.
Right.
I mean, they got the Toronto Maple Leafs,
Yeah.
and that's it. Well,
Yeah.
next year when you're playing for the Argos, maybe they'll spruce
my
that
goodness.
up again.
He started that. Now let's hit on a touchy one here because this one.
That wasn't.
Well, I knew when you start off, he's a nice guy. That's
yeah.
like somebody showing you their newborn baby and say, "Oh, he's such a great attitude."
Blind date. She's got a good personality.
Let me ask you, this one's kind of touchy here because this one's week on, week off. Marcel Belfoy in Hamilton.
Well, I think they'll keep him around one more year just because of what he's done this year. But man, oh man, and again, with Kevin Glenn, I mean, there's a 500 quarterback, career 500 quarterback, and that's all they are now. Now they've gone to the 2 quarterback system. We'll see if that does anything for them in the playoffs either. But I mean, they are inconsistently consistent.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, they've been 500 every season that they've been there with all the talent that they have. So something's got to happen at some point.
I thought this year would have been the year they broke out of that, but they haven't.
Definitely. Now, of course, one that's close and dear to us here in the West, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I mean, it's been turmoil after turmoil after turmoil this year. I mean, Ken Miller, he, leaves the field, the sidelines, heads up into the press box, and, he's up there sipping on champagne every game with the wife and Jim Hobson. But a lot of things are about to change there.
Yeah.
What do you see as far as what Saskatchewan needs to do to get back on par with where they were a couple seasons ago?
Well, I don't even think Ken Miller coming back is going to help them. And Jim Hobson, maybe he's just going to wash his hands and ride into the sunset. Brendan Taman has to go. He didn't do anything in Winnipeg, and he's not doing anything here. So that's the way I look at Saskatchewan. They've got a tough rebuilding program. Andy Fantuz isn't going to sign there. I bet he plays with you in Toronto. And
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Seriously, I think that's what's going to happen. Toronto needs something like that. They need to get back into the picture. And what better way than to go after the biggest free agent out there as far as the receiver goes, and they're going to pay him something like $200,000. I bet this is what I think. And then they're going to have a quarterback to throw it to him. I mean, I'd love to see you stay here, but you tell me, do you want to?
We'll see at the end of the season.
We're talking about putting each other on the spot. I mean, you're my brother, but
I want to be in Calgary.
okay. If the situation's perfect, you'd love to stay here. But if it's not, you would go elsewhere because you still want to play.
Well, yeah, you have to be smart about that. I mean, I have 2 or 3 more years to go in my career, and I definitely want to spend it playing football.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, just as every quarterback was, I mean, I know Huff as a quarterback, he understands that as well as everybody out there. You definitely want to play. You don't want to be in a reserve role when you know you still got it. I mean, I feel I can still lead a team to a championship. That's something that's never been faltered by anything that's happened. The decision that was made is actually only fueled the fire that I feel that I can actually make that happen.
Now, if they were to say, okay, we want a 2 quarterback situation like Hamilton has, would that make you happy, or do you just want to be a starter?
like I said, I've been a
No right or
starter
wrong
by
answer,
myself
yeah.
for a number of years. There's no reason I need to share. I've proven I can, ever since I've been here, Calgary's had the best record, or at least tied for the best record in this league, and I still feel I can bring that to the table, and I know they know that.
Yeah.
And so that's why, the decision after the season, it will be a tough decision both ways, but things will have to be worked out and rectified, and a decision will be made at that time.
That's why I'm good at sex, Hank, because I played by myself for a long, long time, just like you. So I know where you're coming from.
That's what she said.
What's your other questions?
Well, I mean, that was pretty much my final question, because, I'm interested in knowing what people are thinking about some of the important coaches' decisions that'll happen coming up here at the end of the season. Now, I do want to ask you
I
one.
want to ask you one
Oh,
question. Coaching, how about Mark Trestman? How long is it going to be before he is finally wooed and won over to go back to the States? Because every year, and even this year, college and pro both want him back
Right.
because of his reputation of working with quarterbacks.
Well, you know what? I think when Calvillo goes, it'll be his time. Because right now, it's been a walk in the park for those guys. Up until this season, it's been a little more difficult because, the teams are now starting to make their moves. The parity in the league is starting to become balanced clear across the league.
And age.
Age, and also
set in
they've
there.
had to deal with a lot of injuries this year that they're not used to, because typically they've been the healthiest team in the CFL in the last number of years. Now they're having to deal with another animal where they're having to deal with injuries, bringing in new guys, learning new faces. Like you say, the guys like Anwar Stewart, those guys are getting older, and now they're going to have to replace them with younger, newer, fresher players. And going through relationships with like a guys like Dwight Anderson and having to pick up those new relationships and lose the old ones tends to make a coach wander a little bit. And so I feel that once he starts to see guys like AC walk out the door, he saw Ben Cahoon walk out the door, but once those guys like AC and the number of the old guys on the offensive line and defensive line start to leave, I think he'll start to look for greener pastures in other places and look for the best offers when people are actually giving him security like he has in Montreal.
If you're Wally Buono, how long do you stay coaching, and when do you go upstairs? I mean, so many people, especially in the media, thought this was the year Wally should have done it. But
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's still on the sidelines, and I love the fact that he's changed his style somewhat, bringing in players in the middle of the year, which really he never did that much before.
Right.
So I love seeing him buck all the trends, and he's still the winningest coach. And I love to see him on the field again.
I think this is it.
Do you?
I think pretty much he stayed around because of the Grey Cup in Vancouver. I mean, to have an opportunity to coach your team and have a chance or the possibility to relive what happened in '94 with Danny Mack and those guys winning the Grey Cup with Louis Pasagla's kick against the Baltimore Stallions in BC Place, to have a chance to make that happen and be able to walk off the field kind of like John Wayne did in his last show, and in the best situation possible for him in his career. I mean, for him to be able to walk off the field as a champion is something that he would definitely love to have happen right there in front of his family, in front of his organization, right there in Vancouver, the place he's called home for the last number of years. That would be a picturesque or story-esque ending, a dream that would come true for anybody associated with football. And so therefore, I think that's why he's put up with all this. So hopefully this might be able to happen. But after this year, I think this is it.
And who's his replacement?
That's a very good question. I mean, it
Is
could
he
be
here in
Mike,
Calgary?
it could be somebody in Calgary, or possibly Mike Benavidez. Or,
Yeah, either or, right?
Or, yeah, who knows? I mean, there's so many candidates out there, but right now I think they'll look internally, somebody that Wally's worked with in the past, because they've picked up on some of his teachings that he's, brought with him wherever he's been, whether it's Calgary or in Vancouver with the BC Lions. So I think it'll be internally, somebody internally as far as who Wally knows and has spent a lot of time with and truly has that respect for. And I think at the end of the day, Wally will be the person making that hiring as well.